Yes, good afternoon, students. In the last class, we have discussed in detail about the research design types. That is, research design, it can be descriptive, it can be review, it can be experimental design, or it can be correlative or meta-analysis type of study. And we have seen lot of points wherein we can understand the type of the design suitable for the research problem. So whenever the problem is given, whether we should approach about the problem using the descriptive design or the experimental design or etc etc. So after understanding the different types of research designs and their appropriate uses and their suitableness to the different types of research problems, we have to understand how to use these design methods. For example, if it is a descriptive design is going to address what kind of questionnaire. As we studied, research design is nothing but strategy for answering your research questions. So whenever you take up any research problem, lot of research questions to come your mind, and those problems, how these problems can be solved is going to be addressed by the design methods. So we have for our syllabus the very important and very useful research design method, that is sampling design. Okay, you take any field, lot of population or lot of samples will constitute a problem. So that is maybe selecting a person as the prime minister of the country or any representative of the country. We start with the big population and finally we come up with the proper selection. So here also, whenever we take any research problem, we will be having lot of samples at hand, and out of so many samples, which samples have to be selected and which subset of the population is going to be useful for our study has to be decided properly. So in this unit, that is in this topic sampling design, we will be concentrating mainly on these aspects, wherein we will be trying to select a particular subset from the given population, and what is the result of this selection, and we have to validate that particular result and analyze that whether it is really contributing for our research study, whether it is addressing our research problems and it is able to give appropriate solution for the research problem or not. Those things have to be decided. So in this class, research sampling design method class, will be discussing the different types of the sampling designs. Before that, we will discuss lot of points which are related to the sampling design procedure. We will be understanding some terminologies which are normally very important, which play a very vital role in performing the sampling design. Okay, let us go to the basic terminologies used in the sampling design. A sampling is nothing but a process of obtaining information. In fact, process of obtaining useful information from a subset of a larger group. Here we call the subset as the sample, and the larger group or the larger data set what is available with us, we call it as the population. So from the big data set, from the population, we take subset of the population, and that is called as the sample. So this may be applicable with respect to any problem, weather monitoring system or any disease management, wherein we have lot of samples collected already. Out of so many samples, which samples have to be taken for the study, which samples have to be uh, chosen for training and testing purpose, and in order to arrive at the our desired solution, in order to achieve our goal, which samples have to be taken for the study and which samples have to be inputted to our different techniques like classifiers or any grading tools, etc. Okay. The results for the sample are then used to make estimates of the larger group. So yeah, maybe entire population is not of use. Out of 10 samples, if we take only one sample can give the entire behavior of the 10 samples. So maybe when we want to do some survey or something like that, so we will not be taking the feedback from the entire population. So for example, if we take any survey from the class, if we want to take any feedback from the class of 100 students, then it is sufficient if you take some feedback from one or two students. Maybe generally all the students will be of the same opinion, and the opinions will match with those two students. So those two students will be acting as representative of the class. In order to represent the entire class, or in order to represent the entire population of 100 students, we will be taking only two students, which is less time consuming. Very important thing is that if we take the sample, if we take the subset of the population, the amount of time required for achieving our goal is going to be less. Okay, of course there might be some errors in the samples and all, which are the right students to be asked for, and what is the right number of students to be taken as a sample out of 100, whether we should take 5 students feedback or 10 students feedback or only 1 student's feedback. Of course, depending on this, there will be some errors, and probably sometimes errors mislead to some wrong decisions in our research design. So we'll be discussing the different types of errors in the sampling and non-sampling techniques. Okay. At the last, we'll have this discussion about the sampling errors. Okay. The sampling method is adopted in the research design simply because, as I said, it is very easy to take or to interact with one or two students instead of 100 students. That's why we call this method as faster. This sampling method is faster and it is cheaper. So in terms of the timing, if you speak in terms of time complexity and all that, in terms of the amount of time, it is going to be cheaper compared to asking the entire population. So it is always better to go for a subset of the entire population or a sample of the entire large group instead of asking entire group. Okay, the two keys for understanding the sampling process are the two keys or two key points which can be kept in our mind before we ask any students or we represent we select the representative of the entire population. The first point that we should keep in our mind is that selecting the right people. Okay, that's what generally we have some class representatives like that. Which students have to be, or which samples from the entire population have to be chosen for the interaction, which samples have to be chosen for the study, which will definitely contribute to our research problem. So this has to be selected scientifically so that they are representative of the population. So this cannot be done blindly. Any student cannot be selected blindly. We have to have some scientific base, scientific background for selecting the right people, or you can say selecting the sample. Okay, and only selecting the sample is not important. selecting the right number of the right people. How many out of 100 population has to be selected? Whether 2 have to be selected, 10, or what is the percentage? Whether we should go for 1%, 5%, 10% of the population. So that is the very important second point about, that is selecting the right number of the right people. That is to minimize the sampling errors, that is choosing the wrong people by chance, that is accidentally, knowingly or unknowingly, we may end up choosing some wrong samples, which will lead to lot of fatal errors in the research design. And because of these errors, sometimes we will not be achieving as per our expectation. The result will not be as per our expectation. So sometimes we study in data mining also that some samples for the study will not contribute anything. Suppose if we are having a problem at hand which is going to classify two, given samples into two categories, whether it is category 1 or category 2, 0 or 1. In some cases, the some samples will give the input or will give the suggestion in such a way that those samples will not fall into any category. So those samples we call them as outliers. They will not fall either in category A or in category B. So such samples will not contribute anything to our study, anything to our research problem. So we should keep in mind that the samples which we select should be right. And the second point is the number of samples we select is also should be right number. So unnecessarily some wrong samples should not be selected for the study. So if we know this point, how to select the sample and how to select the things properly for the study, then probably will be coming up with the expected results. Okay. So next we'll see some brief terminologies about the sampling design. The first thing is, as I said, what is a sample? Sample is nothing but contacting a portion of the population, contacting the subset of the population, that is either 10% of the population or 25% of the population. And it is best with a very large population, and we usually represent the sample size as small n. So what best size is possible with the large population? Okay, it depends on problem to problem. It will change from problem to problem, and it is easiest with the homogeneous population. Suppose if it is a homogeneous population, that is if all 100 students are of the same opinion, if all 100 samples of the given study are homogeneous in nature, in such cases it's not necessary to take not more than one student or not more than one sample. That is, out of 100 only one can represent the entire population. So this kind of selection is going to be error free if it is homogeneous population. So there is one more terminology which is called as the census. Usually it is used in our day-to-day life. The name is the entire population. The entire population is the census, and it is most useful population. That is the population is very, very small, but it is very most useful, and the cost of making an error is very high. So if you take the entire population, which is out of 100, say around, if we take 50 students as the population is the census, and start our survey or start our interaction, then probably all 50 will be of different opinions, and hence we will be coming across high error rate as far as the research problem solution is concerned. So this analysis, what should be the right sample and what should be the right number of right sample, these two key points can be discussed with the help of some diagram. So population of interest, here it is shown in the big circle. There are two circles you can find here. Big circle indicates the population of interest and the small circle indicates subset of the population which we call as the sample. If the sample of the entire population is the part of the entire population, then the this particular sample is of great help. So we measure the sample using statistics in order to draw inferences about the population and its parameters. Okay, we'll be using some statistical tools in order to measure the proper sample size. In fact, in the further coming slides, we have some slides wherein we will be demonstrating what is the wrong selection, what is the good selection, what is the best selection, etc. So before that study, that is whether it is the good sample, bad sample, or the best sample, we will understand what are the different characteristics of good sample design. So which characteristics should be kept in mind in order to come up with a good sample design. So whatever sample we select should be representative. The first, there are four characteristics major. Four characteristics are representative, less error, accessible, low cost. So whatever sample we select should have the representativeness. The sample selected should represent the entire population. Say for example, if we are representing, if we are doing some study on the male students, the representative should be male, it cannot be female. Okay, like that. So whenever we select any sample, the study, by taking that sample, the experimentation after taking that sample should lead to less error. It should not lead to more error or high error. Error rate should be very less, or it should be as less as possible. And the sample which we have selected upon, the sample which we have decided to select should be accessible, easily accessible, and should be very easily available for the experimentation, and the low cost. So the whatever sample we select should not pose any cost complexities. That is, we should not feel that it is going to be expensive. If this particular sample or this sample frame is of great help, but this sample is going to be expensive. That should not be the case. So the low cost samples are very, very preferable for our study. So in summary, always the samples which we select should have representativeness in them. Maybe it's a geographical area or a gender, as I said, should represent that particular population, and it should lead to less errors during the experimentation phase, and it should be easily available, and it should be of low cost. Okay, keeping in mind these characteristics, we can say that if we are able to satisfy all these characteristics, probably the sample design we have done is a good sample design. So this is an example, that is, we have taken a sample which is a part of the entire population to some extent, and some samples which are not at all related to the population, which are not not at all part of the entire population. So in such cases, some samples which are not part of the population will be giving misleading results. The results will be really misleading if they are, because they are not part of the population, and hence they will not be able to contribute anything to the given problem. Okay, so this is how the population can be decided as. If this is the case, we decide this population as the bad population or bad sample, in case it is the bad subset for the study. Okay, suppose we have some study, this is the the data set, and we have taken the samples which are totally, in the previous case, some around 25 to 30% were part of the population, but here in this case there is no matching. They are totally opposite to the population. So such samples are taken as very, very bad samples. So always what is the right sample should be, the sample should be part of the entire set. That subset should be part of that, the entire set. So such sample is called as the right sample. So this is very, very important. Before you use this sample for training, testing, or anything for that matter, make sure that it is not case 1 or case 2. It should not be like this, or it should not be like this. So it should be always part of the entire population. Okay. So now we are clear with the characteristics. Sample should be representative, sample should give less error, sample should be of low cost, sample should be available easily. So having understood all these characteristics of the good sample design, and after understanding what are the bad and very bad sampling methods, it is the time to discuss the terminologies that are very, very important in solving some problems using the sampling design. Okay. The first terminology, so whatever we have just spoken is in general, but we will be putting the terminologies in the form of a technical definition. That is, what is the population? The entire group of people of interest from whom the researcher needs to obtain information. Population is going to be, the very important thing is entire group of people of interest, the entire group of samples of interest from whom the researcher needs to get the information is called as the population. And of course, there is one more terminology called as the sampling unit or element. What is the sampling unit or the element? So one unit from a population, a single unit from the entire population is called as the sampling unit. And what is this sampling process? The sampling process is the selection of a subset of the population. And what is this sampling frame? Yeah, we have come across this population sampling and sampling unit, but one thing is very important here. Sampling frame, listing of population from which a sample is chosen. So we have to list the population and we have to make a frame in such a way that we should keep on collecting the information from the samples which fall under that frame. Okay. So while discussing the probability sampling, we will come across that, how to make a frame of k samples and how to select the sample from each frame. So we'll be discussing that. So listing of population from which a sample is chosen is nothing but the sampling frame, and census is nothing but a polling of the entire population. You are going to poll the entire population in order to understand the right sample and in order to understand the right number of samples. So this process is called as the census, and the polling of the sample is nothing but the survey. So after selecting the sample, you will be observing, you will be monitoring, you will be taking an insight into that particular sample. So that is nothing but the survey. So this is the list of terminologies related to sampling. Okay. Of course, for any problem, there will be a parameter of interest. There will be a variable of interest that we call as parameter in sampling. And of course, the information obtained from the sample about the parameter, maybe what is the mean of the samples, what is the average of the samples, and what is the standard deviation of the samples, and what is the unit variance, what is the normalization of the samples. So all such information obtained from the sample about the parameter of interest is nothing but the statistical analysis. And what is the goal of this? Very important thing is the goal of sampling is to be able to make inferences or draw conclusions about the population parameter from knowledge of the relevant statistic, to draw general conclusion about the entire body of units. So when we are completed with the analysis, when we are completed with the study, only the inferences drawn from that subset of the population will represent the entire population. Okay, sometimes we say that the result of this class is above 80%. That 80% is decided based on the performance of two average students. So if two average students can make 80%, then that conclusion will be applicable to the entire population, entire remaining populations. Okay, the goal is to be able to make conclusions about the population parameter from knowledge of the relevant statistic. And the use of critical assumption, the sample chosen is representative of the population. That is, always we will have some assumption which is very critical in nature. That is, when we choose any sample, it is going to represent the entire population. With that assumption, we start our study, we start the sampling design, assuming that the entire population will be represented by a single sample or a subset of the population or the sample of the population. Okay, so these are the different terminologies, and of course, in order, before we move on to what are the different steps in sampling design, we should recall all these fundamental definitions. What is sampling unit? What is sampling frame? What is the sample size? And what is the parameter, etc. So with these basics in mind, we will move on to the next process, that is steps or the important steps in sampling design or the sampling process. The first step is define the population. We call it as type of the universe also. So what type of population you are interested in? Are you interested in a particular geographical area? Are you interested in a particular age group? Are you interested in a particular gender? For that study, say for example, if you want to, if you are in the process of identifying the culprits or finding the criminals who have done the terrorist attack, you are identifying who might be the terrorist for this attack. In that case, those who have done the conversation for more than 1 hour in the last 2 hours or during that attack period, or some kind of bifurcation or segregation has to be done in order to identify the particular sample. So you have to define the population properly. So for that matter, say example, the number of people who have visited the internet in last 2 hours, the number of people who have used their telephones continuously in the last 2 hours, that will become the population. That will definitely contribute for your study. If you take the number of people who were talking over the phone there for the entire duration of the day, then probably you are, in order to narrow down to your solution, it may take a lot of time. So in such cases, define the population properly. Okay, we'll be studying each point in detail. Identify the sampling frame. Yeah, you have to identify the sampling frame. From that frame, you are going to select a particular sample. Select the sampling design procedure. So whether you are going to apply the probability sampling design or non-probability sampling design. So there are different techniques under each the design sampling design procedures. Okay, and then you will go through determine the sample size. Yeah, that is how what should be the ideal sample size for this analysis, for this study, and finally you will draw the sample. Okay, so this sampling design process can also be depicted in the form of a flow chart. So this goes like this. Okay, what is the first step? Define population, that is type of the universe, and after that determine sampling frame, decide the frame, and then determine sampling procedure. As I said, it can be probability sampling or non-probability sampling. In probability sampling, we have type of the probability sampling method, that is simple random sampling. That is, you are going to use a very basic approach which is not that systematic, that is simple random sampling. You are going to select the samples randomly from the entire population. Stratified sampling. Stratified sampling means you are going to identify subgroups in that sample, a stratum or the subset of that sample which are having a proper characteristic or which are having some common features, that is stratified sampling. And cluster sampling. So of course in the entire populations we can easily come up with the clusters depending on their behavior, depending on their nature. The samples can be segregated into different clusters, and each sample in one cluster is totally different from the other clusters. As far as two clusters are concerned, the samples are totally different, and the cluster, I mean samples in the same cluster are having common features or common characteristics. So if at all we apply these three methods, that is simple random sampling, stratified sampling and cluster sampling, they come under the class probability sampling design methods. Okay. So what are the different methods in non-probability sampling? The type of procedures used are convenience sampling. Convenience means as per our convenience we select the samples. And next, judgmental. Some samples become judgmental as far as the study is concerned. And quota type of sampling is a non-probability sampling. Some quota of the entire study, entire population can be selected based on certain considerations, based on certain criteria. Some samples are selected for the study, and after that we determine the appropriate sample size. Once we decide that okay, I will go for a stratified sampling method, that is a probability sampling method. After deciding that stratified sampling method, what should be the size of the stratum, what should be the size of the strata, or what should be the size of the subset of that sample, we have to decide. That is the determine appropriate sample size and execute the sampling design. Once the sampling size is available, we will be in a position to execute the sample design. So this is the flow chart for the sampling design process. Okay, let us discuss these points in detail. So as we said, the first point is defining the population. Second point is identifying the frame. Third point is selecting the sampling design procedure, probability or non-probability. Fourth point is determining the sample size, and finally executing the sampling design. Okay, so let us start with the first point. So as I said, what is this define the target population? It addresses the question, ideally who do you want to survey? That is, those who have the information sought, what are their characteristics, who should be excluded. Okay, this will definitely identify the proper subset, a proper sample from the entire population. That is, okay, depending on age you want to do the survey, or depending on the gender you want to do the survey, or depending on the product use you want to get some information collected. or depending on the industries, you are going to select the people working in steel industry, the people working in IT industry. Like that, you are going to make the survey, or depending on the geographic area, you are going to make the survey. Has to be decided. Okay. Suppose this the people from North Karnataka, then you are going actually from geographic area criteria. Based on that, you are selecting the people. People from IT industry, okay, probably you will target all the IT industry people, and they have their own working pattern, they have their own characteristics. Based on that, you want to do the study. So that is defining the actual target population is the first step. Okay. So this can be put into this thing. The element can be the individuals or families. Sampling unit can be individuals over 20. Okay. Families with 2 children or 2 kids is one sampling unit. Seminar groups at new university. That is the criteria for selecting the sampling unit. Okay. And then extent, individuals who have bought one, families who eat fast food, that is the extent. Timing, bought over the last 7 days. Okay, based on this, we will define the target population. These are the different criteria we apply for the definition of the target population. The target population for a toy store can be defined as all households with children. Okay, so that is the toys which have been bought over the last 7 days. If you are selecting, basically you are probably selecting the sample based on the timing, and if you are making the survey of toys based on individuals who have bought one, that is how many individuals have bought one, and families who eat fast food have bought some toys. Okay, individuals over 20, families with 2 kids, how many toys have bought by those families, and etc. That will define the target population. Okay. And the next thing is, after determining or defining the target population, the next thing is defining or determining the sampling frame. That is obtaining a list of population. How will you reach a sample? Okay. Say for example, if your target study is about the students who eat at McDonald's, the students who eat at McDonald's is the study, then you try to determine the sampling frame. Okay. Young people at random in the street, people from the phone book or from your phone directory which are there in your contact list, such people may be the target sampling frame. Or students union listing, university mailing list, the students or the university mailing list is having some students, some faculty members. That mailing list can also be taken as a frame. So examples are individuals who have spent 2 or more hours on the internet in the last week. That becomes the sampling frame. So you have to define the frame, and then you have to move on. So determine the sampling frame, select sample units. So then you can select the sampling units as individuals, household, streets, telephone numbers, companies, etc. Okay, that becomes the second point, that is determining the sampling frame. Okay, after defining the correct population, you have decided the sampling frame based on certain criteria, and then you will move on to the selecting a sampling procedure. So as I said, there are 2 types of procedures. Probability sampling, that is having equal chance of being included in the sample. Very, very important difference between probability and non-probability is that the probability sampling is having equal chance of being included in the sample. Okay, and the example for this probability sampling is simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, cluster sampling. These are different procedures followed for probability sampling. But all of them will satisfy this criteria, that is, they have the equal chance of being included in the sample. Okay, and what is non-probability sampling? Unequal chance of being included in the sample. This is non-random. There is unequal chance of being included in the sample is exhibited by the non-probability sampling procedure, and the examples for non-probability sampling procedure are convenience sampling, judgment sampling, snowball sampling, and quota sampling. So they have their own characteristics, and we'll be studying in detail about each of these sampling methods under probability as well as non-probability in detail. Okay, so let us start with selecting a sampling procedure. That is, let us start with the probability sampling. That is, probability sampling is having an objective procedure in which the probability of selection is non-zero and is known in advance for each population unit. So always the probability of selection is non-zero in case of probability sampling, and it is sometimes called as the random sampling also. Okay, so random sampling, and it's not like out of 100 we have selected 0 samples. No, it is always non-zero. It will be maybe 1 is selected out of 100, 5 are selected out of 100, and this kind of probability sampling ensures information is obtained from a representative sample of the population. So this is very important point. Probability sampling ensures that the information is obtained from representative of that entire population. The sample we have selected is definitely having representativeness of the entire population. We are sure that we will be getting the useful information from that representative. The sampling error can be computed in case of probability sampling. So there is a provision for computing the sampling error. The errors are common and errors are natural, but those errors can be computed and quantified. Survey results can be projected to the population and more expensive than non-probability sampling. So as far as the cost is concerned, the probability sampling is going to be expensive compared to non-probability, because the non-probability is not that clear and it is vague kind of approach. So we'll have to compromise for the cost if at all we decide to use probability sampling procedure for doing the sampling design. But at the cost of more price, we'll be getting the advantages like error can be computed, results can be projected, and we'll get the assurance as far as information obtained from the representative sample is concerned. Okay, so this is the simple example of the simple method of probability sampling, that is simple random sampling, which is in short called as SRS. That is, population members are selected directly from the sampling frame. That is, the entire population is there. Out of that, randomly some students are selected. Say for example, it's a 100 class student. I can select randomly the first 2 bench students or the first row of the entire class, second row of the entire class. Randomly I will select one size. The equal probability of selection of for every member is there in case of this type of sampling frame. So we will calculate say out of 400, out of 10,000 we have selected 400 samples. Out of 10,000 samples, 400 samples are rendered, it is 0.04. So use random number table or random number generator for generating this sample. So the simple random sampling is using some notations, that is capital N, big N stands for the number of cases in the sampling frame, and small n is the number of cases in the sample. Okay, and n combination n, the number of combinations of the subsets of n from n, and f is equal to n divided by n. That is, the f is nothing but the sampling fraction. So with the given capital N and small n, we can find out the number of combinations. Also, we can find out the sampling fraction. Okay, so selecting a sampling design is having the objective like to select n units of out of n, such that each n combination n has an equal chance of being selected. So for this procedure is use a random number generator, or use a table of random numbers, or a mechanical device to select the sample. Okay, and the selecting a simple method, that is selecting sampling design as far as simple method is considered systematic sampling. So it is in the systematic sampling, unlike the simple random sampling, the samples are ordered. Order all units in the sampling frame based on some variable and number them from 1 to n. So based on some variable, say for example, based on the height, order all the samples, order all the students and number them. So 4.4 feet, 4.5 feet, 5 feet, etc. Based on some variable, number them from 1 to n and choose a random starting place from 1 to n, and then sample every k units after that. So that is the after selecting the sampling frame as 4 students, you can select any one student out of 4. Say for example, you have numbers like this. I have taken 10 students, and out of 10 students I will be making a sampling frame of 5 students. 5 students in one frame. So in one frame, if I start with third student, I have to take third student from every frame. Similarly, if I have 100 students and if my sampling frame is 5 students, I have to take every third student from that place, that frame. Okay, so that is choose sample every k units after that. Suppose if you decide that you start from 3, say for example, you out of 10 you start from 3, again every third student 1 2 3 1 2 3 have to be selected, and this is called as the systematic sampling. And based on this we have one slide, that is you can see here 1 2 3. After this every third student is selected 1 2 3 1 2 3. So every kth student becomes the part of the sample. Okay, so this is the systematic random sample example. You can see there 100 students are there, 1 to 100. Okay, number of the units, number the units in the population from 1 to n. What is my n? 100. So I will number them 1 to 100. Decide on the small n. Small n stands for sample size. Suppose if you want n is equal to 20, that you want or that you are comfortable with. So want n equal to 20. Okay, small n is 20, and what is capital N? 100. Small n is 20. 100 divided by 20 will give you k. That is 100 divided by 20 gives you 5. So you have taken 5 as this thing. Okay. Select a random number from 1 to 5. Select a random number from 1 to 5. I have chosen randomly 4 as the random number between 1 to 5. You can select 1, you can select 2, 3 or even 5. So if you select 4, after that you are going to select, after every 4 students you are going to pick another next student. See, out of 1 to 5 I have selected 4. After this 1, 2, 3, 4, then 9 becomes the sample. Then after 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, then 14 becomes the sample. So like that, if you select 3 as the random number between 1 to 5, 3 will become the first sample. After 3, 4, 5, 6 will not be there, 7 will become the next sample. So then take every kth unit, start with 4 and take every 5th unit from that particular sample. So this approach is nothing but the systematic random sampling. So this is the systematic random sampling, and there is one more type of sampling, under the probability sampling, that is the stratified sampling, and after that we have something called as the cluster sampling. Okay, so now we have studied only the two types of sampling procedures under the probability, that is type of procedures like simple random sampling and systematic random sampling. Okay, here under probability sampling, that is equal chance of being included in the sample, we have studied simple random sampling and systematic sampling. Okay, we have discussed the different steps in sampling process, that is starting with defining the correct population and identifying the sampling frame, and the third step is finding the appropriate probability sampling or non-probability sampling procedure. We have discussed two procedures, that is simple random sampling and systematic random sampling. In the next class, we will be discussing about the stratified sampling, cluster sampling. What are the characteristic features of stratified sampling? How you are going to come up with the stratum, and you are going to identify the strata, and then going to apply the sampling procedure, and then cluster sampling. How this cluster sampling as a part of probability sampling will divide the entire population into different clusters, and as far as two clusters are concerned, the members in the two clusters are as different as possible, and members in the same clusters are as same as possible. So we'll be discussing these two probability sampling procedure methods in the next class. Plus we'll be discussing non-probability sampling, where we have the unequal chance of being included in the sample, that is convenience sampling and all other methods in detail in the next class. Please go through this video, and if you have any queries, please raise the queries, log in to Impartus, and then go through the video and come back with your feedback, comments. For any suggestions, please ping me, and please raise the questions so that I will be posting the answers for your questions. Thank you.